Look at that. The dick's going to be flopping out if it were big enough. What's up guys, happy Sunday. Thanks for tuning in to my latest video, The Life of a Jobbing Plumber, which is normally various jobs from my working week, but this week it's just one job, and that's because I didn't really have the time to edit anything else together. I didn't think I was even going to get a video out today, so it's one job from last week. System boiler install. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. Me and Ben working together. It's always nice to work with Ben. We get on well. It's nice to have someone to chat to and a bit of banter. Step-by-step wiring for the S-plan, and then we use press fittings and all kinds of stuff, so hopefully you'll find that video interesting. So the reason is because just been really busy. Like, it's probably been one of the busiest weeks I've had for a long time, because it's been sandwiched in between big jobs. So the week before I did a big job, next week I start another big job, so this week's been sort of playing catch up, but it's just been crazy. I've not had time to think. So yeah, not a various. I've got all the jobs that I filmed this week, just not had time to edit them together. And in fact, after I film this, which is about 4 o'clock on Sunday now, I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and then I've got to go back to work because I've got a job in Loughborough where the floor layers are coming tomorrow morning to lay the floor, and I've still got pipe work to get in the floor for 4 radiators. So I'm going to be doing that most of tonight. So wish me luck with that one. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy this week's video. We've got so just the one job, and then at the end there's the update from Sam, who's doing his fast track gas course. I hope you enjoy it. Right, today's job, taking this cupboard out, heat only system boiler going there. We've got to bring the pipes across to connect onto this, which is the old boiler that's coming out. We've got to try and do it in a day because the lady that lives here needs it. So there'll be a bit of pipe work coming down the wall, the gas, flow and return, 2 new 2-ports, new wiring centre, new pump. Well, the pump will be in the boiler because it's a system boiler. Yeah, should be fun. So this is the cylinder cupboard. So this is where they've converted it from a gravity tank fed system to a sealed system. So we've got a filling loop been added, and then a pressure gauge, and then in the roof space, so above here, is the expansion vessel. I've not been up there and seen that yet, but Ben's told me he's worked on this job before. Right, so we've got the hose pipe draining down. Gravity, go on. Just does not want to be in my videos. So, try and explain the pipe work. So we've got flow and return from the boiler. It's just 2 pipes and the gas going in. The gas comes out the floor there. These 2 15 mils we think are hot and cold supply to that wet room that go under the floor. So most of the part that we're concerned with this side, so we've got the flow and return that come off the boiler. So if we look at the back, one there, and one there with the drain cock on it. So our flow being the one that comes out the top, the hottest one, it then tees and splits off, and then we go to the first 2-port valve, which is for the central heating, and this one which is for the hot water. So that's the hot water, goes up to the cylinder, and then the heating goes down to do the drop, well, the downstairs radiators, which are through the floor, and then up to do the upstairs circuit. And then this pipe coming down next to it is the return from the upstairs radiators, and where it comes out the floor there is the return from the downstairs. Goes there through the pump, so the pump's on the return, pumping back into the boiler. And then if we look underneath, we've got the return there coming from the hot water. So you see that's the flow and return from the hot water cylinder. And then this middle pipe here, what's that going to be? 22. Where does that go? That is our... Where's it tee off? So that 22 there, which I thought was the gas, isn't the gas, because that's the gas. So the gas comes up in 22 and then comes into the boiler here in 15. So we've got 215, which we assumed were the hot and cold, and then 122 that come from upstairs. So we just got to try and work out. I mean, we don't need to do anything with them because obviously they just come down the wall, go along and through. our boiler needs to connect on to the heat and the hot water and the 2 returns. But we'll try and work it out, and if we do, we'll let you know. So we've worked it out. The 22 is the rising main, because in the airing cupboard, the cold is 22 mil, and when we ran some taps, it got colder. And then we think that they are the towel radiator that's been added here. So yeah, mystery solved. We're using a standoff bracket, so that basically clips together. You screw it together to fix it, and then this one fixes on the wall. This hangs onto that, and then the boiler hangs onto that. So we're going to get the pipe work, because we've got the hot and the cold's already come down inside here, hopefully, and then the new flow and returns to go up to come across over the doorway. So that's the existing hot and cold that go to this utility sink. So this is the standoff bracket. So the idea is put that on the wall, bring it across, so then they're behind the boiler, and we've not got to alter them. So that's the flow twin. What's all this crap in there? So that's twin wall flue, and then we're going to get this out and then just put a vent over it. That's what we're going to do. It's inside the boiler. It's just open flue. If you've never seen one before. Hey, fucking hell, that's full. How did that ever work? That's really bad. So that wall bracket goes on first. It's got these 2 hooks here, and then if I can do this with one hand. So that then hooks on like that. So we've got those pipes nicely behind it, and the boiler now hangs onto this edge. We can fix it at the bottom as well. There's 2 fixings there if we wanted to. And obviously it's going to make the boiler stand off by a couple of inch. I've not pulled it down fully onto, you see there's like a lip there. I've not pulled it past that, so I'll do that view again because it wasn't quite at the edge. That's our flue centre, so I'm going to put a pilot bit all the way through to the outside, and then Ben's going to core that from the outside back in. There, nice and easy. Like some. Looks big, doesn't it? Yeah, it does make it stick out a bit, that standoff kit, but. Right, so a little update. So we've got the boiler out, we've got the new boiler on the wall, flue's out. So what we're going to do, flow, gas, return in that order as they come up, and then they're going to come across here, nice brass schoolboard clips, polish the copper up, and then elbow out, elbow across, and then down. That's going to have a vent on it, so we'll come down that side of there, and then we're going to connect onto what we need to connect on there. So obviously there's going to be pipes coming down the wall, but because we've lost this cupboard, the customer is going to build a cupboard door straight across the front here and have this as a storage cupboard, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like. Obviously we're going to make it look nice here. Now, ordinarily I would bend here and have the elbow here, but because they're 22mm pipes, this is a good example. So you see the nice bends on the 15, the radius is tight, it don't look too bad against the wall, but when you jump up to 22, you just don't get into the wall tight enough. So I think that would look a bit silly here because it would be so far out. So we're just going to put elbows in and just try and make it look as neat as possible. So these 2 are both going. We are going to, where we took the pump out, we're going to put a compression fitting on there and put a drain cock in that. So that's where we're going to drain the system from. Don't really want to disturb any of this old pipe work. And then just another drain cock on there, and then tee into it here, connect onto it and tee into the return. So that's the plan anyway. So one of us is going to do that, one of us is going to do this, and then we'll sort of meet somewhere here, hopefully. So I asked the question on Instagram, why is the flue full of this stuff? I had loads of different answers, but a couple of guys said that the flue is possibly too long, so that it's condensing, the flue gases are cooling, and it's reacting with whatever's in the flue and falling back down. We think, if you can see further up, it just goes into a precast flue. It's not flue twin wall all the way up. So we think it's some of the building material from in the flue, possibly because the flue gases have been getting too cool and producing condensation.
Like that there. So if you have 3 pipe runs down,
bang, 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 you're going to be out to here. Is this your new laser level?
Yeah, it's nice. Had it a little while. It runs on the rechargeable red lithium batteries.
I thought they took the little M12 batteries.
You can get one with an M12, but I decided it was too expensive, so I bought one of these. I bought a little torch with one in as well, so I've always got a spare battery. So far, so good.
Cool. So Ben's gonna get the clips on. I'm gonna nip and fetch us some lunch.
I'm just gonna do it like that. I'll do that as a left-hand run.
Yeah, that's the flow.
That's the flow.
Yeah. Right, back in a minute. This is where we're working today. It's absolutely beautiful day. It's a beautiful house. We're in a nice area, luckily, because earlier today I got my press tool out and stood it up at the back of the van, then got distracted, just gone to get lunch, and I've reversed over it. What a dickhead. Yeah, forward. Because we've used the standoff kit on the boiler, these machine bends don't fit this way, but we're going up behind anyway, so if we turn them the opposite way, all that dropping on, that will actually fit into that fitting, and then we just have to have a socket behind the boiler, or we just get rid of them. I'll use them on another job and we'll just have pressed elbows. So copper, elbow then, up. Right, so Ben's got all the clips done. There was a cable, metal trunking in the middle there, so we had to offset them. But as I said, this is all going to be in a cupboard. So we're going along now, we're pressing, we're starting with the top one because we won't get the press tool in once we've done. So we did that one out of situ and then dropped it into the clips. So then we'll do the return next, and then the bottom one is going to be the gas, which is going to come down in between the hot and cold there and then connect onto, this is our gas pipe here, that's PLV. So obviously, like I said at the start, we're under a lot of pressure to get this on for the hot water tonight. So yeah, I'll probably film again when I get a chance, but it might be that it's when it's kind of working. It's only going to be like condensed into a bucket, PLV into a bucket kind of job tonight. We're getting a bit hot and sweaty in here now, but it's not looking too bad. I've piped back down to Ben, he's doing all the tricky stuff, all the hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a sweat on. We've got about, what time is it? 2:30?
Yeah, about that.
So we've got to push now to get done.
It doesn't look that bad, to be honest.
We're getting looked after on this job. One thing you didn't know about Ben, he loves a pink frosted fairy cake. Says a lot about a man, that does. So just filled up. You can see we've got a leak on one of the press fittings because this one's not actually been pressed yet, and it's got the leak identifier O-ring which lets it do this. But we haven't got a drain down or anything, we can just, with it still dripping, press it, and that stopped it. It's one of the best things about press fittings. If you do forget and it's leaking, you don't have to drain down, you can just press it.
Not that it's soldered.
Yeah, if you'd soldered that, you'd have to drain down. So we're full now, got the power on, just purging the boiler, getting the air out of the heat exchanger. I think I've spoken to you about that before. Flue's done, the gas is all done and tested. So tomorrow, we needed to get the hot water on tonight, so we've left that locked in manually open for the hot water. And then tomorrow, do all the messing about, rewire it, because obviously we've got to get a proper feed over to it. At the minute it's just on a plug. Listen to that air coming out. Not too bad, I think it looks alright. Stand back and look at it. obviously this bit will all be in a cupboard, but over the door don't look too bad. I've got to say, this is the first one of these Vaillant filters I've fitted, and I do not like the look of that. I much prefer it to have been a Spirotech MB3. It's a horrible thing, that is. I don't know why they changed them. 4:30, and nobody's cracked another cake yet. I would have thought he would have had one, to be fair, but I bought him a Malteser slice at lunch, so I reckon he's all caked out. What would you do? Would you smash them too? Or would you be able to resist them? I don't know why we've left it till now, because I don't know about you, but working this heat, my legs are knackered. Now I've got to lift this in his van. This will be fun. Shall I film it? Let's see it. Let's film it.
No.
Come on.
Film me. I think on its side. Why don't we go that way? Let me get this out of the first.
Let me see what I can. What you can do? Stand it on that.
I think we're just going to lie it
on
here.
that.
Or even, why don't we just stand it upright?
Yeah, I think you can.
Well, why don't you tip them my way?
I can hold that from there.
I've got a bit of a grip. You might need two hands. Oh, you've not split him.
Look at that. I can get you.
If you've been 2 inches longer,
the dick's going to be flopping out if it were big enough. Right, we're on day 2. So last night we left them with hot water, which was our objective. And in concentrating on that, getting the hot water on, we've made a mistake. So just have a look at the pipework and see if you can spot what mistake we made. Because neither of us noticed it until we fired it up. So the problem we've got is this is the flow from the boiler, and you can see it goes up through the zone valves, but it also goes down. So it's going to the downstairs heating radiators, which means the 2-port for the central heating should have been on here before it got to the upstairs, and then obviously the hot water came off as well. But because we were just concentrating on getting the hot water on, we did it, filled it up, turned it on, and yeah, didn't notice until the radiators started getting hot. So we've got to alter this all now. We're going to drain it down anyway because we're going to flush it and stuff. But yeah, nice to show a bit of real well plumbing, because I make mistakes all the time. So it's nice to just see it online, because no one normally admits to when they go wrong. So, but it's not the end of the world. Obviously it's cost us 20-30 quid in fittings, but right, so Ben's finished this now. So we've got the bypass in, so flow, return, bypass, and then this is the 2-port for the heating, which obviously splits up to the upstairs and the downstairs rads, and then this is the hot water. So that's all done now, it's filled back up, and I am tasked with the wiring. So I've got my 2 new 2-ports there. That was the old pump feed that's going, because the pump's now in the boiler. That is the old power to the boiler that was on here, so that's going. And then I've just got to connect, I've run a new 5-core, so I've used trunking You can't see it at the top. Shit. Need to stand back. So I've run that trunk in higher level, which looks quite good actually, you can't really see it. So I've got a 5 core, which I'm going to connect into that now. That's my job. So that's the inside of the wiring setup. So it's pretty straightforward. Just going to swap the valves, get rid of the pump, and then the old feed for the boiler and the switch live, which obviously comes from the programmer as well. And the permanent live is what I need to connect onto this. So permanent live, neutral node for the boiler, and the switch live. And we should be good. Right, so out of terminal 8, I've just taken the pump live and the old switch live to the boiler. So when there's demand on, the boiler would have a switch live to fire and the pump would have the live, so the pump would spin. Obviously the old boiler didn't need a permanent live, it just, when it got a switch live, it fired up. So that's going, and then from our boiler, our switch live, which is the black, is now going to connect in with number 8. So I'll do that first. You'll notice that the only 2 wires left in 8 at the minute are the 2 oranges from the 2-port valves. So they're the switch lives. When the valves get a demand, they open, puts the power onto the orange, and that's the switch live to the boiler, and obviously the pump's in the boiler, so the boiler and the pump both come on via this black wire from the 2 ports. They're going to be swapped, but for now we're just going to put the black one into number 8. Okay, I know it looks messy at the minute, but that's our blacks, that's our switch live to the boiler in. We'll get this one out of the way, so that's just a neutral and an earth, and the same on the old boiler feed, so we'll get these 2 out of the way now. Okay, so it's looking a lot neater now with them gone. So, on our 2-port, the grey is our permanent live. So obviously we're going to swap for the new 2 ports, but that's also where we're going to get our permanent live that we need for our boiler. So the brown is going to go in here with the permanent live. So that's that, and then we've got our neutral and earth, which we're going to connect in with the other neutrals, and the earth's there, and that's the boiler wired. So that's the boiler wired in, all done. Now we've got to do the 2 zone valves. So we've labelled them up, that's the hot water one, so we're going to swap that like for like. And then the central heating one, this house doesn't have a room stat, so we're going to actually fit a room stat. So then I need to wire a room stat and link it in with this. So we'll do that last. We'll get the hot water valve done first, which is this one. So on a 2-port, earth and neutral, and then we have grey permanent live. So the valve's always got a live to it. The brown is the switch live. So if you, on the hot water, your programmer calls for heat, it goes up to the room stat. If the room stat's calling, it comes down through the brown, opens the valve. When the valve opens, the little board inside the valve puts a live feed on the orange, which is our switch live, which we spoke about a second ago. Goes in with number 8, which is the switch live to the boiler, which fires the boiler up. So connect that in now. That's the hot water 2-port done. So earth, permanent live, neutral, and then we've got live to the valve and live from the valve. So I've took the one for the heating out as well and just left the live to the valve in, because that's going to come from our room stat. So if you see below that, that black wire there is central heating on from the programmer. So when you select central heating on, 240 volts down there, puts power onto the 2-port opens and it comes back down the orange. Obviously we now need to go for a room stat. So we're going to take this one out of here, and from the switch live from the programmer, central heating on, it's going to go up into a room stat, and it's going to come back from the room stat down, and we're going to use this, which is spare, and put the brown to the valve in that. So the power from the programmer comes up, goes through the room stat. If the room stat's calling, it then comes back and opens the valve, and that's how that works. So one more thing I forgot to mention. Now I only learnt this from watching electricians on Instagram. So you see how the earth cable is longer. So if we wired this in and then for whatever reason pulled it out, the last wire to come out would be the earth. So that's why the earth is always longer. If I'm wrong, electricians, please feel free to correct me. Right, so I'm going to get the room stat. Ben's going to fit it on the other side, drill through, get some trunking down there, and we'll connect the room stat in. So this is our new room stat cable. That's going to go in some trunking in a minute. So we've got the 2 switching wires here, which I said we're going to go in. This one we've had to use the earth, so that's going to be labelled up with some heat shrink to identify that, and then the neutral. So this one's the black, which is going to go in with the hot central heating on, and then from the room start in with the switch live to open the 2-port. Right, so I've wired that up. I've just talked you through how to do it, but that doesn't mean I'm confident now when it comes to turn the power on. So I'm shitting myself. Ben, you go to the boiler. So I'll put this on, and then with no demand, hopefully the fuse doesn't pop. So with no demand, you should just have a live at the boiler and it shouldn't come off. It should just be... Right, so now, is the room stat up or down?
It's up to temperature.
So turn the room stat off.
It is off now.
Yeah?
Room stat is off.
Right, so I'll put the central heating on. The boiler shouldn't do anything. Okay, now turn the room stat up. Just let the valve go. There we go. Right, turn that down. That's off. Same valve is shut again. Now put the hot water on. See if this valve moves across. Yeah, oh, it's already locked in actually. Yeah, that's open. See if the boiler's come on as well. Success. Right, we're finished. So that's the boiler all done. Pipework don't look too bad. Obviously, when I say it don't look too bad, if you think it looks shit, please let me know in the comments. We've trunking, used that gap that we couldn't drill the clips on because there's something behind it. That's self-adhesive trunking that's stuck to the wall. Vent over the old flue. Pipework's all done. Obviously wired it up. New room start. Yeah. What do you think? It's been really, really hot. Let me show you where we are because it's such a nice place. So this is the garden. It's just beautiful. So they've got like fields, they own the land around. This is their paddocks. There's a stable there for a horse or a donkey or whatever you keep in a stable. And this is the paddock down, and then you just got views of the, it's just lovely. And if you sit in that, you can appreciate it all. That's the house. And then you walk up there and it goes up kind of a hill. I called it a mountain. And then half of that, the other half is there's a church. I'll try and get that from the front of the house. They own half of the land with the church. But yeah, this is the drive up to the house. We're parked on here. And then, oh, this is theirs as well. And that's the church, you can just see through the gap there. So on Wednesday night after work this week, a group of us who were in an Instagram plumbing group chat together went out in Birmingham for the night. It was really good fun. We went out on the electric scooters, went out for some dinner, and we went to meet Sam, who's the guy that does his weekly updates of his fast track gas course. And he was telling us how much sort of strain he's been under because he's having to get up at 4 AM, drive to the train station, get the train to Birmingham, does his college work, and has to commute back, and he's leaving at 4 in the morning and not getting back till 7 at night, which sounds horrific to me. And then because he's not being paid while he's on his course, he's then working the weekends, Saturday, Sunday. So it's a big commitment from Sam. Hats off to the bloke. He says he's enjoying it, so fair play to him. And this is his update from this week.
Well, 4 weeks in, about halfway through my centre lead training part of the course, and I am knackered. Oh, I'm knackered. I don't know if I've mentioned the travelling before, but I do about 6 hours a day. I'm up at 4 and back about 7 in the evening. So yeah, that's taken its toll on me, makes it a bit harder, but yeah, I'm still enjoying it. I've done a couple of bits since I was last on here. I've done a unit on ventilation, a couple of exams, an exam on the last unit, an exam on ventilation. Scored 100% in those, which is all good. And yeah, due to being so tired this week and not having any free time, then this video is a little bit simpler, but hopefully it shows you a bit of what I've been doing and shows you a bit of understanding with regards to ventilation. But yeah, here it is. That time again. So this week we've been on section G of our book, which is ventilation, doing the equations for how you determine what size ventilation you need for which appliances. Thought I'd do a quick example. So first we categorise whether the appliance is flueless, open flue, or whether it's room sealed. If it's flueless, you've got this table to go by here, and then you've got open flue. There's an equation here, and we'll do one on here, I think. If we say, for instance, we have a boiler, open flue. So let's say this boiler is central heating boiler only, 17 kilowatt net. Now, in a room, predetermined maths has decided that in any room, on average, there's already 35 centimetres squared of ventilation, and that's known as adventitious air. Right, so in this book, it states that per kilowatt input for an appliance, you need 5 centimetres squared of air, or of ventilation. So that being the case, 35 centimetres squared of ventilation already equates to 7 kilowatt. So every room on average already has the capability of housing an open fluid appliance of 7 kilowatt before we start any equation. We've already got 7 kilowatts allowance. That being the case, 17 kilowatt net, take away your 7 kilowatt allowance for adventitious air, leaves you only with 10 kilowatts that need accounting for when it comes to ventilation. Like we said down here, each kilowatt input requires 5 centimetres squared of ventilation. That being the case, 10 kilowatt times 5 centimetres squared, nice and simple, 50 centimetres squared. That's how much ventilation a 17 kilowatt net open flue boiler would need. Now there are other things that would change this figure, whether the appliance is in a compartment and things like that, but standard equation, this is what you get. Now if you wanted to calculate more than one open flue appliance in a room, it's as simple as you add those together, you take away the adventitious allowance or the adventitious ventilation once from that total amount and do your calculation again. Fairly simple once you get into it. It's just understanding which method is needed for each different appliance so that when you look at something, you can say that's flueless, I need to go to that table, or it's open flue, so I need to consider this equation here. But yeah.